Hello everyone, I hope you had a nice relaxing Thanksgiving break. Today I'm going to be talking about our two pieces of media for the week. The first being The New Jim Crow, Chapter 5 by Michelle Alexander, and the film 13th, directed by Ava DuVernay. Both pieces of media covered a lot of the same issues. They tackle it in different ways. Before we begin, I would like to say that it is nearly impossible to completely summarize everything within 5 to 8 minutes for both of these pieces of media because they're so in depth, but I will highlight some of the more important parts and what I feel is more important from the pieces. Starting with The New Jim Crow, Chapter 5, DuVernay gives some frightening statistics. DuVernay states there are 3 million more black adult women than men in black communities across the U.S., a gender gap of 27%. In many urban areas, the gap is larger at 37%. There are, however, 1 million black men in prisons and jails around the country, and there is little acknowledgement of that. Even public figures such as Barack Obama and Tyra Banks avoid even mentioning the mass incarceration when talking about missing black men. The truth is, more African American adults are under correctional control today, in prison or jail, or on probation or parole, than were enslaved in 1850, a decade before the Civil War began. Another part of this reading is that it mentions the previously mentioned birdcage metaphor of how oppression can be viewed as a birdcage with multiple facets. DuVernay states there are steps to incarceration. One is the roundup, when cops find small motives to either interrogate or search black individuals. The second step is the period of formal control, which is when they actually get arrested and are controlled through the jails and prisons and all of that. The third and final step is the period of invisible punishment, which is when, even after being released and being quote-unquote free, they experience hardships just based on the fact that they had been to jail previously. This is literally a way to enforce systemic racism from a legal standpoint. As we talk about the 13th Amendment, the loophole to that was that no one can be enslaved unless it's for punishment for a crime, legal punishment, and this is just a workaround for government to continue the streak of systemic racism. The largest chunk of the reading was comparing the similarities and differences of mass incarceration to the old Jim Crow laws. Some of the similarities include legalized discrimination, political disenfranchisement, exclusion from juries, closing the courthouse doors, racial segregation, and symbolic production of race. And some differences include absence of race hostility, white victims of racial caste, and black support for Get Tough policies. Near the end of the article, it explains that we've gone through an evolution from a racial caste system based on exploitation, which was slavery, to one based on subordination, being the Jim Crow period, to one defined by marginalization, which is the mass incarceration, the current issue. Those were the big points from the reading that I thought stood out. The other points were also covered by the film we watched, which was 13th. This film was a beautifully powerful documentary piece. The film's title, 13th, is based on the 13th Amendment, which was the amendment that ended slavery but gave the government the loophole that you can still enslave people technically if they've committed a crime, and this would be punishment for that. The main statistic from the film is that while 1 in 17 white males will serve time in prison at some point in their lives, 1 in 4 black males will serve a sentence at some point in their life. A big part of the film was about the war on drugs, which was when there started to be harsher sentencing on minor offenses. The laws made the sentencing harsher for people convicted of crack charges versus cocaine charges. Crack being the cheaper alternative and cocaine being seen as a more elite drug. So basically the laws were enforcing police officers to arrest people of color more frequently than white people. A part of this film that I thought really informative was the clips that played in between as some of the transitions from the different decades and periods in time, where it would show a certain number of incarcerated people at that time, and then the number would jump up almost double for the next decade. This shows that over time the problem of mass incarceration has gotten worse and is not getting better anytime soon. The film goes all the way up to 2016 when it was made, talking all the way up to the Black Lives Matter movement, and there is a heart-wrenching collection of clips at the end of black people being shot by police for seemingly small reasons. This is a big moment for the film as it shows how commonly this actually happens, and most of the time to people of color. There are a few times in the film where political figures such as Bill Clinton admit that what they did was not correct, and that some of them admitted that at the time they even knew that what they were doing was not correct, which shows how deep-seated the issues actually are. So overall, I believe the film is very effective in the message it's communicating. It uses everything that it has to convey to you what it's trying to get across. I think it was very real, and I think it's what a lot of people need to see in regards to this topic, to understand and think about what's happening in the world around them. As I said before, it is difficult to condense everything into an 8-minute video, so hopefully that covered most of the main topics from the reading and the film. So thank you for watching.